Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ardus and Sam with Cajun Couple Trucking. We are in Ripley, West Virginia at the Loves. And today I just sprung this on my wife because we had a schedule. Today we'll be talking about training or lack thereof. All right, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Hello, everybody. This is Ardus, and of course, this is my beautiful wife.
Hi, I'm Sam.
Anyway, we are in Ripley, West Virginia right now. We're heading up to Michigan to drop a chicken load, and they are under heavy construction, but it's starting to look nice inside. Nice parking lot, not a whole bunch of trucks, but we are stopped. We stopped before noon, and right now it's like, oh shoot,
Don't
what
even
time?
know.
You don't even know where your phone is.
It's not unusual.
Let me see. Anyway,
It was under my butt.
it's 2:51. 2:51. I see it right there on my GPS. All right.
The phone was under my bottom.
Anyway,
Sorry.
we're talking about training. Another YouTuber from Tim Travels, Terry, was talking about it, and it just brought to mind. He ran into someone who, I believe,
Couldn't move their axles.
couldn't slide their tandems and didn't know how. And so he was trying to educate the guy, and the guy started throwing a fit. And Tim went through what he thought was wrong with the training process. And I agree with Tim on everything but one thing. So we're going to go through and see what we think is shortfalls, because even though my wife is not a driver herself, she's not been through the training or anything, she has actually sat down and talked with people about sliding their tandems, fueling, hours of service, and she knows enough, from when I was doing hot shot, and she would actually help me. She doesn't help me now. I mean, her job is food,
Look pretty.
and keep me company. I mean, she don't even run the maps anymore. So the first thing Tim mentioned, and I'm going to mention too, is the way that the way that all companies put it to trainers. Make more money. Make more money. You can almost double your income. Make more money. Get more miles. And they keep pushing this, pushing this. They don't stress you're training the next set of drivers. Now, what brings this up is our daughter the other day she drives for Prime as well. She ran into a girl she went to a school, drove for somebody else, then came over to Prime and got in a leasing program. She didn't have any training, nothing. This girl had about 4 to 5, about, I think our daughter said like a week or 2 weeks worth of trips that she had not scanned in. She wasn't getting paid, and she was at her wit's end. They're wanting money from me, and so my daughter sat down with her and showed her how to use the app, how to find fuel stops with the app, how to use the Qualcomm. She sat with her for about 2 hours, explaining that. My first fueling stop, whenever I went to go pick up my wife after I got my lease truck, the very first fueling stop on my way down to Louisiana to pick up my wife, there was another Prime driver, and she came up to me. It was a female. She came up to me and she said, "Can you help me?" I said, "Sure. What's your problem?" "I don't know how to fuel, and I feel I'm really embarrassed, and I didn't want to ask anybody else. And I figured you worked with Prime, you probably wouldn't make fun of me." So I walked her through how to scan her purple card, how to scan the Loves card, which fortunately she already had. And then how to open the fuel tanks, where DEF goes, where the fuel goes, how to read the reefer's fuel gauge and all that. She hadn't been taught any of that. Like I said, my wife has talked to people about hours of service, sliding tandems. What else?
A lot of people just don't know how their hours are tracked and how to count back and how to make sure that they're going to get there on time. I mean, and unfortunately they get in situations where they're late because they don't know how to figure.
And they get service failures.
Yep.
And then it's not just Prime. We've helped people with other companies. I mean, we had a girl we just picked up at Sanderson Farms, yesterday.
Yeah.
And last time I was at that Sanderson's Farms, there was a girl there. I can't remember if she drove for Snyder or Hirschbach. I can't remember.
Something like that.
But she tried, and she had the outbound blocked for like a good hour. So I finally got out and I walked over and said, "What's going on?" She goes, "My tandems won't slide and they don't have a curb for me to back up against." I said, "You should never rely on a curb." So I showed her how to switch the glide hands, and when you supply air, it locks the brakes. They still wouldn't work. I went out there and checked. She had no brake pads, plus the adjustment was out. And I told her, I said, "You can't go anywhere. Your brakes on your trailer aren't working." And so she's on her phone with her fleet manager, and he's saying, "No, just go. Your tractor can stop it." And that's when the guard stepped in because he heard it. And he said, "No, you're not going anywhere. You're going to back that trailer up, put it right there in that spot, and you're not going anywhere until someone fixes those brakes, because I'm not going to be responsible for letting you out of this plant knowing that your brakes don't work and you kill somebody or yourself." And we've talked to people about pre-trip. So many people don't know how to do pre-trip. So, number one, the first thing we think, and we have talked about this, but I didn't tell her we were going to talk about this, is how the companies put it to the potential trainers. All they say is make more money, make more money. My daughter is going to start training in January. She says she wanted to get a couple months of driving in ice and snow by herself before she started training someone to do it, which I commend her for. But the really snowy, icy months, if you've driven for a while, is January and February, not really November and December. So they should not put it. Our daughter said she wants to train properly, and she's actually writing down and making a list of what she wants to cover. And one of the first things she wants to cover is the Qualcomm submitting paperwork and all your stuff from your arrival to departure calling out. I know people who have been trained by their siblings or someone in their family who didn't teach them anything while they were on their truck. I guess they were thinking that they were going to team afterwards. I don't know. But company needs to stop putting it like that. Companies put, yes, you can get compensated for it, but we really want you to concentrate on training. And whenever I did training for England back in the 90s, we had to submit through the Qualcomm a checklist of everything we did that day with our trainee. At the end of the week, with our trip packet that went in the little trip packs at the truck stops to be delivered so we could get paid, we had to put in a handwritten form checklist and how they're progressing in each and every area, from hookup to sliding tandems to control of the vehicle, everything, pre-trips, all of it, what they're missing on the pre-trips. But
at least they know it's covered.
At least they know it's covered. At least they know you're training. A lot of trainers, and I have seen this over, and not just Prime, just about every company, all they do is stick someone in this seat, put miles on the truck so they can get paid. That's it. They don't show them the Qualcomm. They don't show them how to do the paperwork. They don't show them how to fill out the trip sheets. They don't show them how to fuel. They don't teach them the pre-trip. Most of these trainers don't even do a pre-trip. I have literally heard trainers tell trainees, you'll know when something's wrong with your truck. You'll get to know your truck and you'll know when something's wrong. Even if you're sleeping and you got a trainer, it's going to wake you up. Yeah, it's going to wake you up when those wheels lock, pull you off the road and roll you over. Because you had your system hit the brakes automatically because you got too close or someone cut you off and brake checked you and you cammed over and the brakes wouldn't release. I mean, there are so many things. So, number one, companies need to stop putting that way. Number two, it has been 30 years since I was driving. And they have not put, no company has a standard for training. I hate to say it, but I mean, I think the federal government, the FMCSA, needs to put out a standard for training, for the OTR training, the over the road or on the job training, OJT, needs to put out a standard saying you have to have documentation and proof that these people know these things, because the companies aren't doing it. You know, I mean, I'm not going to train this time around. My wife's with me. If she wasn't with me and I was training, there would be updates to my fleet manager. There would be documentation of what I taught them, and there would be documentation on how well they're doing. Okay, so I believe there needs to be documentation. That's something that Terry also said. I agree with him on that. He said the trainers aren't training. I believe that training is a two-way street. If they aren't offering to teach you and you aren't asking questions, you're failing yourself. I mean, am I wrong on that?
No. You really have to put in as much effort as your trainer does. I mean, you have to ask the questions. Okay, I saw you do that. Why did you do that? Explain to me what the process is. Why did you push that button? I don't know what that button does. Or how did you get your card to work to do this? Or how did you submit that paperwork? Can I do it next time so I'm more comfortable with it? I mean, they're more of a show situation than a do situation. Is not going to teach you. You need to get in there and do the different processes, or else you really won't retain the knowledge. And then later on, when you get on the road by yourself, you're going to be like, how did he do that? And you're either going to have to call the trainer, ask another truck driver, and take the risk that they're going to make fun of you because some of them are not as nice as others. Or you're going to have to call your fleet manager and be like, look, I just don't know how to do my job. And that's a pretty embarrassing call to make.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and I've talked to trainers. I've talked to trainers who are good trainers. I'm not going to mention any names, good or bad or what, but I've talked to some. There's some that are YouTubers that actually have gone through their process of training and actually have interviewed trainees on their first. They have said Prime puts forth an established policy on training. Your first week, your first day, you should have a conversation in your truck with the trainee to see if you think you can mesh. If there's going to be any clash or anything like that, y'all need to go your separate ways before you even leave. Then you should have them log into the Qualcomm and go over the Qualcomm. Then for the first week, you're supposed to be in that seat while your trainee's in this seat. He's driving. You're observing every minute that he drives. You're on duty. He's on duty driving. Then you run it solo. Yes, I know you're not going to get the revenue that you think you should. But this is making sure that he knows how to slide the tandems. He knows how to do his pre-trip. He does his pre-trip and does it effectively so that he or she can catch any problems with the truck. Knows how to run the GPS, knows how to run the navigation, knows how to run the Qualcomm, knows how to do the paperwork, knows how to fill out the trip sheet. In that first week, you should get 3 to 4 trips. They should be handling everything. Everything. From going into the shipper, going into the receiver, every single thing. At the end of that week, they should be able to drive effectively. If they can't, then you need to do another week in that chair. When they can drive effectively, you call your fleet manager. When they can handle the truck, paperwork, pre-trip, everything, call your fleet manager and get put as team loads. By that time, they should know how to hook up a trailer, how to unhook a trailer, how to do their pre-trip effectively, how to do the pre-trip on the reefer. You know how many people I've met that have no idea that there's even a pre-trip option on the reefer? How to check this, to pick and drop trailers, how to do all the paperwork, how to communicate with the shippers and receivers, how to fuel, how to change headlights and blinkers.
Yes.
They should know how many pounds are transferred forward and or to the truck or to the trailer with each hole on the sliding tandem. They should know how many pounds are transferred between the truck and the trailer when sliding that sliding fifth wheel. These are things they should know before you ever start driving as a team. Okay? Now, as my wife has said, and I have said, and I've said on many videos, if you aren't asking questions, you are setting yourself up for failure. You're not 5, you're not 7, you're not 10, you're not 13. Your teacher should not be working harder than you are. Your trainer should not be working harder than you are. You should be working harder, number 1. Number 2, even in school, when you reach high school, you notice how it's swapped. Instead of the teacher doing 90% of the work, now you were doing 90% of the work. Because you were the one learning. You were the one that, if you didn't understand it, they let you fail.
Or even college.
Yeah, or college. Yeah, they will let you fail if you don't come up and ask questions. You are an adult. You need to ask questions. If you have questions, ask. If your trainer jumps all over you for asking questions, gets mad at you for waking them up because you're having to do something you've never done before and they're trying to sleep, anything like that, you contact your fleet manager, you get another trainer. Period. They don't need to be training. Okay? On the flip side, your trainer tells you don't go over 60 because I pay for the fuel and I don't want to pay for a lot of fuel being wasted. Don't go over 60. It's their truck. It's their home. They live in that truck 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year. You don't. When it's your truck, you dictate how fast you go. Okay? But
be respectful, but also
you're there to learn.
You need to pick up for yourself and say, hey, I need to know how to do this. Can you show me this? I mean, you can't just sit back and be complacent and be like, whatever they teach me, I'll just learn the rest when I get on my own. On your own on the highway is not where you need to learn the basic procedures.
No. And that's just the stuff you need to learn before they switch you over to team. By the time you get out of training, you should know a lot more. And the thing about it is you got to look at it this way. That person is training you, sees you as an adult. If you have questions, they feel that you will ask the questions. You won't just sit there and be quiet. Number 2, how many students have they trained? How many times have they been yelled at? Oh, I already know that. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Just let me drive. Okay? You need to step back as a trainee and realize why you're in training is because you don't know it all. Okay? I came from a background where I drove, I trained. I let my license go. I had to do everything over again. My trainer knew this, but he still walked me through everything the first time. He still made sure that I could do it, and he still watched me do it before he called and said, put us on teams. This guy's ready. Now, by the time you get out of your OTR training, your TNT training, you should not only know how to do everything we mentioned before. Okay, and you should know what every single button in the truck does. Do you know that there's a button on your steering wheel if you have a Freightliner that will flash your headlights to let another driver know that it's safe to come over? Did you know there's a button on your steering wheel in a Freightliner to flash the tail lights to let them know thank you for letting me over? Did you know that there's a button in a Freightliner, well, in all of them, that will heat your mirrors so that it will melt ice and dry fog?
Don't be an Angelica and go, what does this button do? When you don't have someone there to show you.
Yeah. And you should not only know that, you should know how to effectively use your engine brake. That Jake brake will save your life. It will also save your brakes. In that 3 years that you're leasing, or that 3 years you're in the company truck, when they call you in for a new, those brakes should not be needing to be replaced. You should know how to pre-trip a trailer effectively. You should know how to check your slack arm adjusters. All right. And I know a lot of people, trainers and trainees, are both going to say this, but I learned that, or I'm supposed to learn that in PSD. No, PSD is simply just training you to pass a test. There is no practical on there. They don't make you pull the slack arm adjusters for the test. They just make you say, I'm going to check it like this. You need to learn when you're on TNT how to check it like that. I can teach you, and I'm probably going to do a video on pre-trip. We're going to go through and show you everything you need to check. And there's extra stuff that I check. Then we're going to close the hood and go through like I do my pre-trip in the morning and show you I don't even need that 10 minutes, and I've checked everything. Everything. Okay? Now, you should not only know that, how to use your engine brake, your Jake brake effectively, but also how to stab brake. Do you know what the red button's for, or what's the yellow button for? Do you know what the SOS button is for? Do you know the hill assist? Hill start assist. I mean, your lane departure warning. All that you should know. You should know what every plug and every switch does in your cab. All the way around, sleeper and all. There's so much. You should know that you have to clean off your radar. When you stop, clean your windshield, fuel, clean off your radar so that if there's a big bug, it doesn't say you're about to collide with something. I mean, training is, like I said at the beginning, a two-way street. It is not only your trainer's responsibility, but yours too. If you're both in it just to get extra money, you're getting the 900 guaranteed or whatever your company offers. They're getting the extra miles or the extra pay, and neither one of you care about your training, then don't come out and say that you got trained. You need to let your fleet manager know you were not trained. We need to get those trainers who are not training off of the training payroll. And then, I mean, I know of a trainer, he just put people in the driver's seat. One of his trainees had an accident the day that he got his truck. The day he got his truck. When they asked him, he said, my trainer never taught me that. They suspended that trainer. That wasn't the only instance. He had several trainees say he never taught me. They suspended him for 6 months. When he came back, he was willing to train because he saw that lost revenue. And for 6 months, he struggled. When he was able to start training again and could make that extra revenue, he made sure from that day on that he properly trained people and they knew what they were doing. And the thing about that was the mistake that the trainee made, his fifth wheel never latched to the trailer. So when he went, he hooked up his hoses, he picked up his landing gear. When he drove off, the trailer fell because his trainer never had him hook up to a trailer. Now, that's where I think Tim needs to add. You are just as responsible for your training as the whole. In fact, I would say more responsible for your training than the whole training department is. They don't know what you know. So your trainer can do one of two things. Assume that you know everything because you say you know everything, or assume you know nothing. Either way, you know what they say about the word assume, right?
Make something out of you and me we don't want to be.
Right. Break up the word if you don't, because we're not going to say it.
No.
But break up the word. Write down assume, ASSUME, and break it into the 3 words that it can make, and you'll understand. So, if you're looking to train, and by the way, if you are looking to train and you want to come to Prime and you use my driver code, which will be at the underneath in the first comment, let me know. I'll get you my personal cell phone number. Any questions you have through the whole training, I don't care if it's 5 years from now. You got a question, call me, ask me, I'll answer it.
And you won't get made fun of.
No, not at all.
Because it's better you ask than not. And even though it's hard to find somebody to ask questions to sometimes because they just, don't want to be helpful, when you find people who actually want to answer your questions, utilize those resources and keep track of those people. That way you can, whenever you have a question where you're like, this might be a stupid thing to ask, but I don't know how to do this, you can ask and feel comfortable that, no question's too basic.
And the way I look at it is, if you use my driver code, then you're accepting me as a mentor, and I'm going to do that job to the best of my ability, like I do every job. In the Bible, it tells us, in everything you do your best for the glory of God. And so that's what we do. Everything we do, we try to do our best. And that includes answering questions, helping mentor people and stuff. Now, if you just want to follow us. We're going to have a lot more content coming out. We're thinking about starting a series on things you should learn, like what we talked here, about how to check your brakes, how to do this, how to do that, how to use stab braking, how to use your Jake brake, stuff like that. We're also planning on doing a couple other little things, and we are going to continue to talk about the industry and talk about what we're doing. And we're going to restart the series of what makes us mad, upset, grinds our gears, whatever. She don't like that. That's
I don't.
Anyway.
What makes us think.
Yes. What makes us go,
Well, that's off of a song too, so we don't want to. That's an old song though, but so there might not be copyright infringements, but yeah.
But I mean, we are the kind, and we are Cajun Couple Trucking, and we are planning on starting a micro fleet within Prime in the next few years. But we are looking at. We are out here. We've been out here for over a year now. Back in the trucking industry for about a year and a half, 2 years now. And, well, it was June. About a year and a half now.
Close enough.
And seeing the caliber of people, and a lot of people won't believe this, but you cannot get a CDL license. You can't use an interpreter. All the tests are in English. You can't, you have to be able to speak, read, and write English. Okay? So when you run across one of these truckers who go, no English, just do what I do. I went and knocked on a guy's truck, said, hey man, I need to go, you're blocking me. No English. I said, you're not going to move? No English. I said, okay, well, I'm going to call an officer, a DOT officer, have them come out, state trooper, and you can discuss with them how you got a CDL with no English. Oh, you need me to move? Okay, I move. All of a sudden, he knew English, and he understood English. They cannot get a CDL in the United States, and you cannot use a foreign driver's license to drive in the United States. You cannot use a military driver's license to drive a CDL.
And it doesn't matter the nationality. We're not picking on any nationality.
Nope.
Wherever you come from, you have to learn English to get a CDL. And it's very disrespectful of you to tell another driver no English whenever we know you have to know English to do the job that you're doing. So if we politely ask you, hey, can you move so I can get out? It shouldn't be a disrespectful no English.
Right.
That's
Heck,
uncalled for.
I'm moving. You can take the spot I'm in.
Right.
Another thing, while we're on that subject, another thing that you should definitely know before you get out of TNT, how to back.
Would be lovely.
And I'm not talking about take an hour at a dock to back because that's the only time you back. I'm talking about being able to come into a truck stop and squeeze in between two trucks with about a foot and a half on each side. You need to perfect that skill. Period.
Because a lot of people park in weird spots and block you in because they don't know how to back. So the only way they can park is to pull through or block on an end to where whenever you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, I can't get out because this guy.
Or they stack 3-4 trucks on the end and not give trucks enough room to swing in. And when you have a tired driver coming in at 2 a.m. with a poorly lit parking lot, he's probably going to clip you. And he's not. And I believe that's more your fault than his, because you put your truck in a situation where it could be hit. Now, if you're backed into a spot, you're not out the end. You're not in a makeshift spot that isn't a marked spot. You're in a marked spot, and someone hits you. That's completely their problem. Completely. If you are not in a marked spot, then you should accept that if someone hits you, you need to pay half that $1,000 deductible if you work at Prime, because you're just as much at fault as he is. I don't care if you were sleeping, have been sleeping for 5 hours. You put your truck in a situation that it could get hit and easily get hit by someone's misjudgment, and you know they're coming in at 2, 3 in the morning. They are not at the top of their game. Even if they had just woke up and they're fully awake, you're talking about it's at night, poorly lit parking lot. I don't care where you go. They're all poorly lit spots. You know, that's you. And I always leave my park lights on, my running lights on, whenever I park. That way, if you come in at night and I'm sleeping, you have lights. But do not leave your headlights on. That will blind them, and they can't back up effectively. Anything else you want to add, baby?
Oh, that was a lot.
Was a lot, but there's a lot to training. I mean, people gripe about I'm just going to use Prime as an example. They gripe about the 2 weeks PSD. They gripe about the 50,000 miles. But you know what? PSD is just to train you to pass the test. It's taking 2 weeks. If you go to a traditional school where they teach you logs and everything, and really truly, logs really need to be taught. But if you went to a traditional school, you're not talking 2 weeks. You're talking 4 weeks, 6 weeks. There's this at the community college in Lake Charles where we used to live, where I taught people to drive buses and stuff. They opened a truck driving school at the community college. And some of those guys have been in there for 10 weeks, 12 weeks because they weren't ready. They couldn't pass the test because they weren't taking it seriously. So we need to stop advertising training as a get-rich-quick scheme. Okay? That's to everybody,
And
not
still
just Prime.
pride in your training.
Take pride in your training, whether you're the trainee or the trainer. Take pride in it and learn everything you can, or teach everything you can. We need to make sure that the trainers and the trainees both know it's their responsibility for the training. Ask questions. Offer information. We need a standardized, whether it's done through the company or not. And if it's already put in place, we need a way to track it. And we need the trainers and the trainees to be held accountable. Like I said, whenever I was with England, I had to send that in every week. Well, you know what? They got an email, because we didn't have cell phones back then. They got an email through the Qualcomm every week asking how I was doing, what I was teaching them, how they felt about me. And when they filled out that survey on the Qualcomm, I was not supposed to be in the truck. I was not allowed to be in the truck, or I had to be in the back sleeping. Okay? Your fleet manager needs to call you. I don't care. Well, you're supposed to call your fleet manager once a week as a trainee. If your trainer says, no, don't call them, there's something wrong. If your fleet manager says, oh, only call me if there's a problem, there's something wrong. They're not wanting you to be trained properly. There are reasons why things like that are put in place. So he can ask you, how's the training going? Are you learning? And you can say, it's not going well. Every time I ask a question, he yells at me. Tells me to get back to sleep. Don't wake me up. Stuff like that. So, there's a big problem with training in every company. And a lot of the schools, too, a lot of the traditional schools are not training our guys like they should be before they release them. So, I mean, I'll be glad to talk to anybody, and I'll be glad to help put up a formal training. If I'm asked, I'll be glad to help. Checklists and stuff like that. That's easy, but we need to get better quality drivers out there, and
support each other better.
Yeah, I feel that it's the training process, because really and truly, I mean, think about it. Everybody, when they're a kid, wants to be a lawyer or a doctor. Why isn't everybody a lawyer or a doctor? Because it's too darn hard to get it. You get into school, if you can get into the pre-med program, you got to prove that you can go to a medical program. I'm not saying as intense, but while we got them training, let's weed out the bad ones. Let's weed out the ones that think this is a get-rich-quick scheme. Let's weed out the ones that don't want to learn. Let's weed out the ones that are going to be unsafe on the road. I mean, there are too many accidents because people were unsafe, didn't know. I mean,
or thought they could make that turn.
Mm-hmm.
That physics will tell you they couldn't.
That was Jabbit Swift.
Just saying.
It's a trailer, swing wide. No, but we need to get a better caliber driver out, and the only way to do that is through training. And while we got them in training, if they can't cut it, they need to go home. Period. I mean, that's how I feel about it. And nothing in this world is ever going to change my stance on that. So,
quality over quantity.
Yes, very much so. And I know we need drivers. I know we need a lot of drivers, but still, we need the caliber of drivers who are going to keep us safe on the road and keep everybody else safe. Because we're the professionals out here. That little four-wheeler in front of you is not a professional driver. They just have a license to get from point A to point B. They don't use that license to make money. This is our livelihood. Our office is right there on those interstates. So we need to make them safer. And the best way to make them safer is for us to make sure that all the truck drivers that hit the road are properly trained. And I mean, I hate to say it, especially with that footage that came out the other day, where two drivers got into a confrontation. They were yelling back and forth at each other. I have no idea what the argument was about or nothing, but one of them got in his truck, pulled a pistol out, and shot the other one. As far as we know, the one who shot is in jail. The one who got shot was rushed to the hospital, and he's in good condition. But you should be able to come to a driver and say, hey, dude, that was wrong. That we need to be able to call people out. And I have on the CB, and I have in person. But that makes me really think, should I make that comment to that guy in the fuel island and tell him, hey man, you've been here for 45 minutes. What were you doing inside? You know, you're not supposed to take a shower. You're not supposed to go eat when you're at the fuel island. You're supposed to pull up, go in, get your receipt, use the bathroom, grab you something to drink, come in. If you're going to do anything else, shower, go take a dump, anything like that, you're supposed to come out and park your truck. You know, that's just like my wife said. Show some etiquette towards each other and support each other.
It's a stressful job.
It is. A lot of people think it's easy, but you have the stress of everything from the shipper, the receiver, getting loads there on time, driving safe, people cutting you off, people brake checking you, people staying an hour and a half in the fuel lanes while you're trying to get fuel.
Company yelling for an ETA while you're driving.
Yeah. Your company sending you messages on the Qualcomm when they know you're locked out of the Qualcomm while you're driving. They can see you're driving. Why don't they just call you on the phone so you can use your hands free? You know, I mean, there's a lot of stresses. But you want another Prime driver just drove up. He's parking. But you want to make sure that you are properly trained. The people you train are properly trained. And you have a sense of accomplishment when it comes out. And I really think, I know we got a trainer of the year and all that, but we need to make awards and stuff for trainers. More of them. I mean, let's incentivize doing the job correctly. Let's standardize doing the job correctly. And let's make sure that the trainers are recognized for what they do. I'm not just talking about getting someone from day one to completion. If they're not a right good fit for you and you can't do, that trainer should call and say, hey, look, this is the problem we're having. I think he'd be better off with another trainer. Can we find another trainer? Yes, I'll keep him on my truck until we find another trainer. That kind of stuff. We shouldn't prioritize the money over making sure that we have a safe driver. Anything else to add?
That is all. Y'all have a great day.
Yes, y'all have a great day. Like, subscribe, add a comment. That all helps.
Ask a question.
Ask a question. Send us. And please comment in YouTube instead of Facebook if y'all don't mind. Either way, we'll answer it. But if you comment in YouTube, it helps move it up. If you comment in Facebook, we'll still answer it. But it just helps us out. And as always, guys, I know it's old trucker lingo. I know I'm old school, and I may be old as dirt. The joke I tell my kids is, God said, "Let there be light," and I was sitting over shoulder going, "Good idea." Anyway, keep the shiny side up, the rubber side down, and your mirrors between the ditches. We'll catch you on the flip side.